When it comes to sales and it comes to the whole sales process and closing, I think a lot of people suffer from a tremendous amount of confusion as to exactly how the pieces and parts all tie together. When I do sales trainings and I educate people, we always come to this point in sales training where we discuss closes, right? And closing techniques, because lots of people get really excited to hear about closing techniques. They're some of my most popular trainings and popular videos. I do a webinar on closing techniques, it fills right up. However, when it comes to actually utilizing those closing techniques, lots of people struggle because I think they have this mentality that I call it the lemming effect. It's like people look at closing techniques as this canned, scripted, paint by numbers, follow the leader kind of thing that is going to lead them to success. They look at it as a magic bullet. Right. And what I always try to wind back and bring people down to reality, pull them down to reality with, is that closing techniques do not exist in vacuums, right? Individual closing techniques, be it, the value added customer close or, the assumptive close or, whatever, the associative close, all these different closing techniques that exist, they exist in a continuum. They're all linked to one another. When you actually witness a salesperson applying closing techniques, what you see is somebody taking the assumptive close, pairing it with the triples close, wrapping back around to feel, felt, found, and then jumping over to the value customer close. And what they're doing is they're just basically, it's like roping a dinosaur, right? That's kind of what a sale is, where, you're not sitting there and thinking mechanically, like, I'm going to go from close A to B to C to E. You're not doing that. You're, using what works. You're listening the whole time. Selling somebody is as much psychological as it is practical, right? So you're working with that person. It's a repartee back and forth to figure out what's going to work. Closing techniques and the purpose of studying them is about almost like sales mind expansion. You're getting new ideas. That's the benefit of studying closing techniques. You're getting ideas about what might work. What am I not doing? What could I be doing a little bit better? Can I add something into my closes? Can I, become cognizant and aware of different types of closes that I'm not using right now because, you just aren't aware of them. When I started selling years and years and years ago, I didn't know a single closing technique, not one, zero. But I knew how to sell myself, even though I had never had any training in closing techniques. How is that? Because sales fundamentally is all about convincing another person to take an action, and we all know how to do that. A lot of people, when they study sales, they actually regress backwards and become worse at selling people because they start to overthink things. They start to look at this process as a process of, all these hidden magic tricks. And it's not. It's a really simple process, right? It's going in there, it's building rapport, it's pushing product, it's educating, it's leading, it's guiding, and it's ultimately it's closing and closing in a way that fits that person, right? That's going to work. The other thing here is that, sometimes people get hung up on closing and they look at closing as though they have to do it or else, they're not going to have the sale. That's true. You're not. However, getting so hung up on closing somebody using, machinations and manipulations versus closing them because you properly explained the product and brought somebody to a level of awareness to know that they need to buy it, right, to move forward is something to really consider. Because, if you're selling a good quality product, a good quality service, the closing techniques that you use don't really matter so much, right? Closing techniques really matter a lot when you get down to garbage products and services, right? That's where you really struggle to get the deal closed, right? When you're charging a lot of money for something not very valuable and you really have to fight to get that client to buy and bite. And then, of course, you have high rescission rates where people cancel like crazy and all that kind of stuff. I don't see high rescission rates and tremendous cancellation almost universally in our industry. They're not very high, right? Across the boards, I've never met anybody that have very high rates in this industry. When it comes to like home improvement sales and selling stuff that, selling all kinds of whiz bangs and junk that people buy, door to door, yeah, there's a very high rescission rate because it's almost universally crap and it's garbage and people buy and then they regret it because they just got scammed and they feel victimized. In that industry, yeah, you have very high rates of cancellation. In our industry, there's not high rates. So that means that because the nature of the beast is you don't have to be an expert salesperson. What you need to be is an expert consultant. And I train this all the time. What do I mean by that? Well, I think you need to know your product, you need to know your prospect's business, and you need to know how to logically explain how this product or service plugs into that business and delivers value to them. If you know that stuff, it almost doesn't matter because if you properly explain things, you'll get sales. I know tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of entrepreneurs and businesses and agencies that their sales training is literally just go in there and talk to them, right? Literally, no sales training at all. Go in there, explain, hey, here's the product information. Here's a prospect. Give them a call. See if they want to buy it. Literally, very successful agencies. If I take those people who are successfully selling their services and I fill their mind with closing techniques and all kinds of stuff that overcomplicates it and scares them and makes them think you're missing out, I probably will regress them to a point where their closing ratio goes down. That's not good, right? So in this video, I wanted to convey to you, yes, closing techniques are beneficial. Sales is beneficial. Sales training is beneficial, but it needs to be put in the proper perspective. And you need to look at this industry as an industry where the product and service is a technically innovative product and service. It's a necessary product and service. It's a service that has value, real value. And unless you're charging ridiculous rates like buku sky-high dollars, you're not ripping anybody off. So your prospects are well aware of this. And so when you go in there to make sales, you're going to make sales irrespective of, your closing techniques. You can go in there and just say, hey, do you want to buy it? A lot of people say, yeah, I need a website. I'm going to buy from somebody. I need to buy from you. Your prices seem decent because you're a white label company. The nature of the beast is the companies that are like little boutique web shops that need to charge a bottom line of $10,000 for like a 3-page site. You are so much cheaper than them usually that it's a no-brainer, right? Except for dirt cheap online companies, right, that are charging $200 for some DIY junk. You're in the middle ground where you're so much cheaper than the boutique shop that you are in a sweet spot that sales will naturally sort of gravitate towards you. So anyhow, that's for websites, but it's also true for SEO and a lot of other services. Anyhow, that's going to conclude this video. If you like it, hit the thumbs up, squash the like button, whatever. Go ahead and sub to the channel, and I'll see you in the next vid.